again, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Buri, and in today's video I want to talk about life. More specifically, how I think there should be more to life than what currently exists. So I don't know if anyone else has felt the same as myself, but one thing I notice is with modern life there is a constant expectation to follow a traditional path to success. More specifically, you spend most of your youth in an education system that's ill fit for purpose, and then you spend most of your adult years working a job that you don't really want to do in order to make ends meet, because in the modern world you often require a source of income in order to have what is supposed to be a decent quality of life. Now, for me personally, where modern life is concerned, I've never really enjoyed education. Not because I hate learning, but because the traditional system never worked for me. I remember multiple times during my school years where I would spend most of my time sitting in a classroom trying to recall mundane facts that had no relevance to real life, all because I needed to pass a standardized exam which determined the rest of my future. For those of you who feel this way about the education system, one thing that's quite noticeable is the fact that you are often told by your teachers that if you don't get the highest grades possible throughout school, college and university, you will end up a failure. Sorry, that's my Bandai Namco bag because it's windy. But going back to my point, I always used to be told by teachers, mainly in secondary school, that if I didn't go through the traditional path of school, college and university, and if I didn't acquire the highest grades possible throughout my educational years, not only would I be an academic failure, but I would not have a viable career, meaning that I would spend most of my life working dead-end jobs that don't really give much in terms of pay or progression. But then, what is ironic about all of this is the fact that a lot of students who choose to go through the traditional path to success are not successful. So a lot of students who graduate from university end up with degrees that have little value, and they end up in jobs that are completely far off from what they studied. And this applies to many people that I actually know, especially a friend who I'm very close to, who sadly enough works in a factory job, doing 70 hours a week for minimum wage whilst having 2 degrees at her disposal. Now, I'm not going to say that I hate my life all the time, but I think the main thing that depresses me about modern life is the fact that society can be very judgmental towards you if you don't follow the traditional path. A lot of people think that success equals having a fancy job title and salary, but really, success to me is about doing the things that make you happy, but on your terms and not anyone else's. I guess the reason I say this is because throughout most of my life, in a sense, extended family members have tried to control certain aspects of my life, always telling me what to wear, what to eat, etc. And I always hated it. And for me personally as well, it's very difficult to grow up in a world where you feel that you don't belong. And this mostly applies to me because I have autism, and as of recently this year, I found out I have inattentive ADHD as well. So throughout most of my life, I have masked. This is the only survival tactic that I have become accustomed to, especially during my adult years, because support for these types of hidden disabilities gets cut off when you turn 18. So coping is all I've known, and it's all I know how to do. There is a specific character that I also relate to when it comes to life and its struggles. And you may know this particular character because obviously this is from a well-known anime slash manga series. And what I'm referring to is, of course, Yu Yu Hakusho, which I absolutely adore. So here we go. I relate to Yusuke Urameshi. Not because of the delinquency, because I was always a good student when I was in school, but more so because I never really fit in anywhere. Because with Yusuke's character, he is half human as well as half demon, and is pretty much stuck in between two worlds. And it's kind of like myself in a sense, where although I know I am a human being, I do feel like an alien because most of the things I do are not what most people do. I mean, for example, when it comes to socializing, it takes me a long time to get used to people because I'm very socially awkward and I'm very introverted. And knowing that I work a full-time job for 5 days a week, realizing that I have to sacrifice my time and energy, it makes me realize that unfortunately there are certain things I have to do in this world that I don't really want to do because I need a certain quality of life. And I think this is the point where work is concerned, is that a lot of people hate doing it, but at the same time, if you want to have a source of income, if you want to have a certain quality of life, this is the traditional option unless you're smart enough to figure out an alternative. So unless I become self-employed, which is something I'm genuinely trying to work on by building up my Etsy store and selling products on Vinted, working is something I've had to endure. Although speaking of work, I do have a new job which I'm starting next week on the 9th of June, and I get to work from home 1 to 2 days a week, which is good because I've never done a job where I've worked from home before, and it gives me a reprieve from a mental standpoint because when it comes to jobs, I don't really like long commutes because it wears me out, and I don't really like coming in 5 days a week because it wears me out. But anyway, going back to my point, sometimes I just wish there was more to life than what is in front of us. And maybe it's because I'm a creative person, I don't really know. But one thing I've noticed is with creative people, it's a lot easier to talk to them about things like this. The same thing applies to spiritual people because they tend to understand where you're coming from and things make sense. And being creative allows me to think outside the box because that's something I've always been used to doing. I've never liked to conform, although most of my life I felt like I had to. I had to conform around extended family because they didn't like my real self. I had to conform when I was in school because people didn't like my real self and people expected me to fit in all the time. Conforming is something I'm trying to break out of as the years go by because I get to a point where I'm fed up of playing a character. I've had to play a character most of my life and I don't want to do this in my adult years because it gets to a point where I'm suppressing my real self. I'm not really sure what else to say in this video because it is a quick one, but I think the point I'm trying to make is modern life, at least to me, should be about doing the things that you enjoy on your terms, as mentioned, and doing the things that make you truly happy and not having to conform because other people around you expect you to. So right now, as you can see, I am doing something I like, which is relaxing in a park as I'm off for a week. And also I had a nice meal, which is something I enjoy, and I went to the Bandai Namco Cross store. So I got some items. This is actually from a vintage clothes shop. And I got a top as well. I got some cutesy Tomodachi stickers, if you can see them, because the camera might be obscured. I also got some other items. A free Tamagotchi pin. A Sakura-shaped eraser, some strawberry / Ishiko themed post-it notes that I can use when I'm doing traditional art, and my favourite item is this Yusuke Urameshi figurine because Yusuke is one of my favourite characters in Yu Yu Hakusho and I love him so much. This is going to go on my TV stand at home. I'd like to thank you for listening to me, and I hope what I'm saying makes sense. And I would also like to thank you for supporting my channel, especially because I do strive to post quality content as I work full time. I might sound off because, as usual, I'm not used to talking in front of a camera, but I am trying my best to slowly adjust myself and to start being more confident, especially without using a script. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you have a good day and a good week. Goodbye for now.